Very good.
Hello everyone, today's video is an interview with fruitarian, detoxification specialist Aubrey here from the US, and we are here in Columbus, Ohio, quite near her home of Michigan,
Yeah.
where you originally come from. And Aubrey was at the Woodstock Fruit Festival this year, and we met there, and we've been traveling ever since, and we're together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
Met your mom today, so yeah.
yeah. So,
Hello.
okay. So this, just to let you know, this will just be an interview. I'll just put this up on YouTube, I guess, instead of making it the podcast thing. But we can do another podcast thing another time. Okay. So, let's hear a little bit about your story. I mean, I might learn some things as well. So, how did you end up coming towards being on a fruitarian type of diet?
Well, like I told you when we were in, where were we? Cleveland, maybe? That I'd gone to, I went to the doctor back in 2017. And for like a yearly pap smear as like a 25-year-old American woman, you start going for these like yearly procedures for your health. And so I had the pap smear, and they said that they found these abnormal HPV cells, and so they wanted to send me to like an obstetrician, a gynecologist, for what they call a colposcopy, which is where they take cells out of your cervix. Yeah, they take the cells out and then they run them like through some tests, and they found these cells in my body that were abnormal. And like I said, it was the HPV, the human papillomavirus, which when I was in high school, I think I was like 14 or 15 years old, I had 3 rounds of vaccinations for that. So anyway, they found that they were abnormal, and they were at the level right before precancer. So they said that there was a low level, a high level, precancerous, and then cancerous, because it will turn into cervical cancer if you don't take care of it. So they told me about that, and like I was like, okay, so I'm not even really at much of a risk at this point if I can do something to turn it around. But then they started going on through a phone call, not even like face to face with me, that they wanted to put me through this procedure where they would put me under an anesthetic and load me up with Valium and then burn the cells out of my cervix. And I said, no, I don't think so. Like, I literally had like a physical reaction. Like, my stomach cramped up. I was like sobbing, like,
Oh wow.
really, really ridiculously. Like, in my car driving to, actually, it's funny, I was driving to Cleveland that day. So it's funny that I told you in Cleveland. Anyway.
No, I think you told me in New Jersey. But
Was it New Jersey?
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless. I was driving in Cleveland that day, so I'm like driving on the freeway, like crying and having this like huge reaction. And I told them on the phone, I was like, I'm not going through with that procedure. Like, you're not coming into my body and being so aggressive and invasive. Like, that's not happening. Like, there are other ways that I can take care of this myself, especially because it's not even precancerous yet. So I called up my friend from Brooklyn, Michigan. Her name's Dina Barlow, and she had just gone through. So this was June. No, it was 2016. Sorry, I get my years mixed up. So June of 2016. No, it was 2017. June of 2017. Sorry, it's been like a crazy few years. June of 2017, and in May that year prior, she had gone down to Florida and taken the first level of detoxification with Dr. Robert Morse. And so I call her up and I'm like, hey, Dina, you know, like, I had this happen and they're telling me all these things and they want to go through with these procedures. And she's like, oh no, you just come to see me and we'll take care of it. So she also does like detoxification with like the Royal Rife machines, where it like pulls out of your feet with the bath, the foot bath and everything. And the light bulb therapy. I don't know, it's all really interesting. But she showed me some videos that day of
Morse?
Yeah, of Robert Morse, and like pictures of like what kidney filtration looks like, and like the frugivore diet and like our species-based diet and everything like that, and it just completely blew my mind. I was like, what? So I started going home and doing my own research about it, and I just like dove headfirst. into the fruit-based diet, and it has completely changed my life ever since.
Why do you think you didn't like? Why didn't you resist it? Because most people would kind of resist hearing that.
I had already started doing some healing and changing of my diet because we had a naturopath in this place that I had worked at where I went to see Dina. So I had heard about the blood type diet. I had heard about the Swami, like genotyping diet and everything. So I had already like stepped away from eating red meat. I had stepped away from eating chicken. I was eating mostly like vegetarian, like black beans and rice and things like that. And if I ate meat, it was like locally caught fish because living in Michigan, we have a lot of fresh water and a lot of lakes. So I had already changed my diet towards a more like pescatarian anyway. And so it just resonated with me so deeply to my core. It just made so much sense. You know, she showed me pictures of like the claws and the fangs of a carnivore, and then, you know, like the monkeys with the fingers and the teeth and how they're so similar to ours. And it just makes sense to eat food that resonates with our bodies, you know, and that's why like I'm so passionate about eating fruit is because it's the only thing that's like attractive to humans in its most basic natural state. We don't have to do any sort of like modification to it, you know.
So what was your kind of transition? Did you straight away go to eating fruit and a raw diet, or were you vegan already?
No, I wasn't vegan, so I was vegetarian, pescatarian, you know, eating a little bit of meat here and there of like turkey or whatever, but I started just eating mostly fruit, but then I would still like, a big thing for me, because I worked at a Mexican restaurant for 10 years, was chips and salsa. So I went like I went vegan for sure, but it was like still a struggle of like trying to stay raw, but then eating cooked food and like bouncing back and forth, because I'd never done that before. And coming from the diet and the lifestyle I grew up on, which was the standard American diet, like I'm pretty sure I call myself a processed food addicted baby because my mom ate Snickers bars in the womb when she was pregnant for me, and so I came out as a young child eating ramen noodles and macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets and like everything so bad for you, and everything that you shouldn't be feeding a baby and a child, like all of the terrible things that they call kid food. You know, which is awful. So I had never even gone vegan before that, and so it was just like a really interesting like trying to juggle the cravings of the cooked food and then trying to eat mostly fruit and going raw, and I was still drinking alcohol at that point and smoking cannabis, and so it was like this whole whirlwind of like crazy different things going on in my body. I started losing weight really quickly because I went directly from that vegetarian diet into a vegan and eating mostly fruit. And when I was eating, I was totally under eating. So like I would eat raw and eat only fruit. And then, you know, I said I was still drinking alcohol, so I would go out and get drunk with my friends and then just get so drunk so fast because all I had was a salad that day, or all I had was fruit. And so yeah, it has been quite a journey these last 2 years, getting to where I'm at now, which is like consistently raw and mostly fruit-based for the last, what would we say, like 27 days now? Yeah, because there's been a lot of back and forth. And
so what kind of symptoms did you get, like detox and all that, when you were making that transition? Did you feel a lot better? Did you feel things changing?
I felt things changing. I would like break out a lot, because as I grew up I had a lot of really bad acne, and so like before I could let go of the chips and salsa and stuff, I was breaking out, and then I would hop on the Fans of Dr. Moore's page and be like, why am I still breaking out? And people would be like, well, what are you still eating? And let go of the chips and do this and do that. It wasn't so much about the detox symptoms that I experienced in my transition as it was when I started getting into fasting and eating strictly fruit. That was when the detox symptoms would hit, and that's when I would start to get headaches, or I would sleep for 15 hours every night throughout a weekend, or, you know, like losing 40 pounds in 2 months. And
so like where you were from, did you have a lot of support around you? Were there people around you that were doing this, or was there anyone you could go to for help?
I had my friend Lauren, who also did the Detox, and I had worked with her as well. So Lauren and Dina were two women that I worked with at this place called Sacred Touch Healing Arts Center in Brooklyn, Michigan. And they both together went to that detox class with Dr. Morse. But Lauren had ended up actually moving back down. I think she lives here actually, to Columbus. So I didn't really have her around, but I would be able to text her if I was, if I had any questions or anything. But other than that, I was the only fruitarian, only raw vegan that I know still to this day that I know of in the town of Adrian, Michigan. There aren't even really many vegan people there. My family wanted to be supportive, but they were also like horrified. They didn't trust me when I told them I wasn't going to go through this procedure. Like they were super like, they were kind of like mad at me for not going through the procedure, thinking that I'm putting my own self at risk, you know, so. But I knew that it was more of a risk to go through that procedure than it was to take my health into my own hands at this point. So, and all of my friends, you know, nobody around me did any sort of changing except for like spending time with me. They would let me talk about it, or they, you know, witness me like sitting there and fasting while they're all eating Chinese food, or I would go to the bar and everyone would be drunk around me, but I wouldn't be participating. So no, I really didn't have support.
So you went to the Morse course.
I did. 2018.
So I don't know anything about that. So what did you learn in that, and did you enjoy that and the people there and everything?
I did really enjoy it. I was also like fasting on orange juice the whole time I was in Florida. So I was like riding that vibe really high, and just being in the warm weather was just like amazing for me. So I was always, it was interesting because I would go into the class and I would be wearing my swimsuit, shorts, a tank top, sweatpants, socks, tennis shoes, a shirt, sweater, another jacket, and a hat because I was freezing in that conference center. And then I would go outside and be in nothing but my swimsuit because it was like 95 degrees. But it was really incredible. I just was so grateful to, that was like my first experience of being in an environment surrounded by people who were doing the same thing as me. And it's not that I've never experienced that before in my life, but at this level of what I was doing and what I was learning and what I was going through, I had never been around other people who were on that same level. And so I think that was way more important to me than the actual like course that I took, because before going down to take this class, I read his entire textbook on my phone while I would be at the gym sitting on the bike. And it's like a over 600-page textbook, and I read that whole thing before I went down there. So it wasn't like I was learning necessarily anything new, but it was just like solidifying the information, and we actually had the opportunity to ask him questions and just like meet the man himself who inspired me to make this change and so many others. So. And
then from there, how did you end up going to the Woodstock Festival?
Woodstock. I heard about Woodstock last year. Actually, I initially heard about the Canada Fruit Fest first, because I think I started like binge following all of the fruitarians and raw vegans on Instagram, and so Ted Carr, I think, was like the first one that came up because you type in fruitarian and that's his name on Instagram. So I started watching his videos, and I ended up like purchasing my ticket and everything to go to Canada for that festival, and then things transpired differently, so I didn't end up going, but that was my first like introduction, was the Canada Fruit Fest, and then finding out that there's actually one in the US, and it was Woodstock. So this year I had wanted to go, and I had considered applying to be a volunteer like earlier in the spring, and I didn't go through with it because my first initial like reaction to their application was like, I don't want to make a 5-minute YouTube video talking about myself. Right. So I was like, well, it's $350 for a deposit, and I have to make a YouTube video. Like, I don't know if I really want to do all of that work right now. But then I started to take my life in a different direction, and I was actually like at a festival the weekend prior in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then I went to go do laundry, and I got an email as I was sitting at the laundromat on let's see, it was like the Tuesday
Mm.
before, it was like the Tuesday, let me think. I don't know. Anyway, it was like a week prior to the Woodstock Fruit Festival like starting to happen. Like all the volunteers had to show up the Thursday, and then it started that Sunday. So it was like a week and a half ish before that I got the email saying like, we still need volunteers, and I was like, okay, I guess this is my sign. So I went on and I applied, and I spent a whole week emailing Anne and blowing up her Facebook and blowing up her email trying to get accepted. And I didn't get accepted to be a volunteer until the day I had to leave Michigan. And I was intending on leaving Michigan whether I got accepted or not, with $350 in cash in my hand and showing up and saying like, please let me work for the week.
Wow.
So they accepted me that Tuesday, and I took off and I drove through Canada and stopped at Niagara Falls, and then I made my way to upstate New York by Thursday at 3 p.m.
And what was your experience like volunteering at the festival and being there? And
it was so amazing. So it being my first year and it being the 9th year of the festival happening, there were a lot of people who were already, seasoned attendees, whether they had volunteered or not. But it gives you an inside glimpse as to like all of the hard work that actually goes into putting on an event like this. And plus we got to be there 3 days before the attendees showed up. So we also got to build these like beautiful bonds as volunteers together that, it felt kind of foreign when everybody started showing up that Sunday. Like we were like, no, we just want it to be just us. Like it's been so nice. But once everybody finally showed up, we were like, oh, okay, this is what it's actually like all about. So it was really cool. And I was on the dinner prep team, so it was like 5 hours a day of chopping veggies. And like, I think we had the best team and the best team leader, and just like had the best experience of anyone who was volunteering throughout the week. And I'm super grateful for that too, especially because I was so last minute and I just happened to get put on that team. So. And
did you enjoy all the food and everything there? And
I did.
Did you get to go to any classes or anything, or workshops or whatever?
Well, I had every intention of going to yoga in the morning, and that never happened. But I tended to gravitate towards the lake because I just love swimming and being in the sun. And because I worked 11 to 4 every day, I took all the time I could to be in the sun. But the thing that really stood out to me the most was the kirtan. I attended that every single night, and it was like my first real experience of being in a kirtan, and I just like, that just totally like hit the nail on the head for me. It was so wonderful. And I participated in the talent show. I actually like brought my table out and gave some sessions to people while I was there, and just, hitting the campfire every couple of nights and hanging out with Paul Isaac. And so I didn't do many workshops, no, but the things that I did participate in were super resonant with like me and my personality and the things I enjoy. So
let's talk about the what you actually do for work and everything. So you have been a massage therapist.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of different training in that area.
Yes.
And now you're kind of moving into doing your own thing. So firstly, like, what led you towards that, and how does this tie in with health in general, and like
what led me towards massage therapy or creating my own?
Well, firstly, let's talk about
in massage
first.
So I have been seeing a chiropractor, or had been, I should say, because I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I had been seeing a chiropractor since I was an infant. My parents told me that they took me all the time when I was a baby, all throughout my childhood and adolescence up into my adult years, my like early 20s. And because my dad was a school teacher, like our insurance, the way that it works in the US was that school teachers had this specific insurance in Michigan that you could get massage therapy covered in your chiropractic care. So, let's take it back a little bit further, because I didn't start getting massage at the chiropractic center until after. My mom used to go get massages all the time when I was young, and a lot of times she would take me with her to the studio, and I always wanted to go anyway, because when you get there early, they had a hot tub in the bathroom, So you could go and sit in the hot tub before your massage and then, get on the table and do everything. So I always wanted to go to sit in the hot tub. And then as I started going more and more frequently, I think I was like 8 years old maybe, and I wanted to do what my mom did. So I was like, Mom, I want to get a massage. So she booked me a half-hour massage with the female therapist there, my friend's mom, Sandy. And that was my first ever experience. And then as we transitioned over into this new chiropractor that had massage therapists in his studio, we started getting massage through the chiropractic center. And so the woman that I started seeing at the chiropractic center, her name is Allison. I saw her all the way up until this past year. So she was the one who introduced me to the school that she went to. So I initially graduated high school. I wanted to go to school to be a tour manager for bands, and a lot of things changed, and the universe took me in a different direction. And so I was working at that Mexican restaurant I had been at, and I got a massage from her one day, and she's like, why don't you go check out the school I went to? And I was like, okay, well, what have I got to lose? I've been working for 1.5 years at the restaurant again after coming back from my 1 semester at college, and I was kind of going nowhere fast. I could run the whole restaurant by myself, but that really wasn't what I wanted to be doing with my life. So I went and had a tour and orientation at the Ann Arbor Institute of Massage Therapy in Michigan, and I was like, okay, I might as well do this because I can just use it. My initial thought was I'll just use the massage as a stepping stone to get back into the music industry, because that's what I was really focused on. That's what I really, really wanted to do and be around and be a part of. So Allison was the one who directed me in that way towards the school. And so in September of 2013 is when I started my massage therapy program, and I graduated that following year at 2014 in September.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So you've been doing that for a number of years now?
Yeah, it's been 5 years. I actually got hired as a massage therapist at a facility at Sacred Touch. At Sacred Touch. And in June, before I even graduated, because in the state of Michigan, you didn't have to be licensed yet, so you could be in practice without a license at that time.
Sure.
So she hired me because she also went to that same school.
Cool. So, and you've done a lot of different training, and you're kind of moving into maybe trying to do something else, or you're developing your own thing. Why are you doing that, and why are the things that you have been doing, why is that not enough as it is? Why do you want to develop something more than that?
I have been, let's see, how do I want to word this? With all of the different therapies and modalities and techniques that I've learned, because I went through the massage school, and with graduating from there, I didn't only just graduate to become a massage therapist. I graduated with specific certifications in neuromuscular therapy and myofascial release therapy. And not everyone got to graduate with those. You had to pass certain tests to be able to get these certifications. Everyone got to graduate and become a massage therapist if they went through the program properly, but not everyone got those certifications. So after I did that, for your licensure in the state of Michigan, you have to take so many hours of continuing education to keep your licensure valid. And so I started by taking the 4th level of neuromuscular therapy, which, if you haven't yet, to pop over to my Instagram at Mooseoff Massage, or Ronnie's Instagram at Fruity Ronster, to see the video of us going live earlier and me demonstrating the eye massage on myself, and then also the results photos from me just doing that.
Yeah, I can see my eyes are different.
Yeah, your eyes are definitely different. So I started with the neuromuscular therapy 4, and then I went into see Allison again one day, and she started doing something to me that I had never really received before, and it was what's called craniosacral therapy. And what really was crazy to me was that she was working on my left foot, and it was very light touch, super, super light. and I was having a lot of sensation in my right foot, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is so weird. And she also did some work like with my ribs, specifically in my chest that day, and it had like this huge release, and like the rib popped, and she was barely touching me, and I was
Wow.
like, what are you doing? So she told me about craniosacral therapy, and I was like, okay, I'm really interested in this. So I started researching like the program that she took for that, which is put on by the Upledger International Institute. And something I think is really cool is that John Upledger is actually from Michigan, and he discovered this technique and this therapy and this system in the body while he was working at Michigan State University. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I took my first class of craniosacral therapy in March of 2017, and then during that time from March to July, I also got my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And then that October, I took my second class of craniosacral therapy. And then in March of 2018, I took my first class of somato-emotional release. And then in May, I took the Detox course. And then in September, I took craniosacral therapy 2 again. So it's just been like a continuous cycle of me putting all of these different modalities together. So when a person is on my table, I send them through a journey. It's not just I'm giving you a massage. It's not just I'm doing some sort of like Reiki healing. It's not It's not just one or the other. I've been able to integrate all of these practices to encompass a full mind, body, and spirit experience for the person on my table to actually get to the root of the problem. And it's not that we're always fixing everything on the first try, but we're having results regardless.
Wow.
So
yeah, and I think what you're doing is amazing, because obviously I've had a little bit of your magic, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's I would say you're the best person I've ever experienced doing any kind of body work. I think you're really, really talented at it. So yeah, you can follow Miss Off Massage on Instagram and maybe Facebook to find out more.
And
anything more you want to say about that?
yeah, I always love to stay modest and humble, because the reason that I do what I do is because I want to help people. But it's not abnormal for me to have someone on my table and for me to hear the words, I've never had someone do this to me before, or I've never experienced something like that, or this is literally the best massage I've ever had. And something that's really amazing that I've got to experience because of my gifts with my hands and the practices that I do is that it brought me full circle back into the music industry, which was exciting. And now I get to set my table up backstage at concerts for artists and musicians and their crews and everything like that. And like something that still rings in my ear to this day is that Tyson Ritter of the All American Rejects told me it was the best massage he's ever had. And he lives in Los Angeles and, you know, travels and has seen so many different people for all sorts of therapies, and I was the best. And
yeah, you've worked on a lot of famous people.
Yeah, I have.
We'll go into that maybe another video, but what I was going to say is there's been a few things that I've had an issue with, and I've been going to different people for years and years and years, and you're really the first person that I think actually could describe it to me and understood it. Like, you don't just, it's not just that you can do stuff, but you actually understand why it's happening or what's caused it or how the body works in that way. So you've got a really amazing knowledge, and then obviously your technique as well is different. So there's a lot of people out there, I think, that, you know, you might have had disappointing results going to different massage people. I certainly have, and bodywork people and physical therapists and things like that, and you just don't often feel like they really know what they're doing sometimes, and or sometimes it's just like a nice massage, whatever, but there's a really strong feeling that you really know what you're doing. I mean, especially with the eyeball thing, that was pretty crazy. Anyway,
Well, I think something that's really special about what I have to offer too is I create that space for a person to come in and feel safe and relax into their own healing process, because that's really what I'm doing is facilitating that space for you to tune into your own body and like draw the awareness to your body and your process.
And I mean, there's only so much that a fruit diet will do. There's certain things that are happening in your body, like, you know, your posture might be helped a little bit by eating better, but there's things like that you're going to need to get someone, like, and that's another thing with my posture, like you've actually been able to explain a little bit about that, about certain things like with my neck and my neck moving forward, and I've spoken to loads of people, like chiropractors and different, like, none of them really explained it to me at all. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they didn't know this stuff, but anyway, so let's get back to the raw food thing. How are you eating right now? Like, what's your ideal day? What kind of...
Well, today we did smoothies this morning, and I made that with pineapple, apple, grapes, and strawberries. It was super delicious. And then we also had some like grapes and a little bit of pineapple because that's my favorite fruit, and I actually found like a decently ripe one, so I was absolutely not going to miss out on eating some of that.
Yeah.
And then I made another smoothie bowl, but it was more like an applesauce. It was like apples, strawberries, and grapes. And that's all we've had today, but we're also going to make a salad tonight because I have this like really unhealthy habit of like tuning into like a perfectionist mindset, and it's almost like in a self-sabotaging way. So if I want to eat a salad, I'm going to eat a salad, and it's going to be okay. So because it's still raw and it's still vegan, and we're still like creating it for ourselves. So there's a lot worse that we could do, like the raw gourmet that we ended up eating yesterday. So but ideally fruit.
So we've only got about a minute left, so thank you very much for watching the video. If you want to let us know you liked it, obviously press like, and you can leave any comment below. If you want to follow Aubrey, then you can go to Musolf Massage. Maybe you'll have a YouTube channel at one point. And yeah, thank you for watching, and let us know below, you know, if you want to learn anything more about what we're speaking about, feel free to put a question below and we'll get back to you. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in another video. Bye.
See ya.